Yes, and we're live. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Ryan. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Do you remember how we even got connected like years ago to begin with?
No.
No, neither do I. That's the beauty of social media and LinkedIn. It's just chaos, and then eventually, when you're in the same town, just say, "Hey, let's catch up and meet."
Mhm. Well, I have 23,000 plus LinkedIn connections, so no, I don't remember every single one of them quite.
One of 23,000. No, I love it. I love it. So how's January been for you so far?
Exciting as always. I thought I would be in Strasbourg, France today, but turns out I had too much going on here, so I'm here in the studio with you.
That's great. No, I'm glad. Anytime we can take away from France, we'll keep it here in LA for us. Keep the experience alive. And how was New Year's?
Very uneventful. I travel a fair amount to speak at conferences, and those, of course, are not on holidays. So I don't tend to do a lot of travel on holidays. I'm usually at the other times.
That's good. So you're just laying low, enjoying.
Well, I'm back, and then I'm trying to catch up desperately on everything I didn't get done while I was in China or Europe or wherever I was.
And let's use that as the jumping off point. So we'll get into who you are and obviously what you've been up to for the last little while.
Who is Robin Rowe?
Who is Robin Rowe? Exactly. But first of all, where are you from?
I grew up in the Midwest. My family has the largest and oldest organic farm in Illinois, and my parents were environmental activists. They led the organic foods movement back in the 50s.
Oh wow, that's exciting. That's been a huge push.
Yeah,
still going.
Yeah. Well, in the 50s, it was considered insane.
You got to unpack that a little bit. So organic foods in the 50s was considered insane.
Well, everything was organic in the 40s. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
the chemical farming industry came out of the World War II munitions industry. That's why Timothy McVeigh was able to make a bomb out of fertilizer, because originally fertilizer was bombs.
Right.
And so, putting all this nitrogen in the soil and all these chemicals and whatnot. Rachel Carson wrote a book called Silent Spring, which my parents read and said, well, this is wrong. We shouldn't put all these toxic chemicals in the environment. The concern then was about DDT, but of course there's 1,000 other things that are nasty that are produced by the chemical industry and tossed around as though they're harmless.
Sure, and I guess the flip side of that is, like farmers getting new fertilizers and new GMO crops that withstand bugs, insects.
They don't withstand bugs.
No.
The GMO crops withstand chemicals. And the chemicals are herbicides and pesticides to knock down weeds and knock down bugs. But as a result of this, the chemical residues in our food, if it's conventionally farmed, are much higher now, because we're putting the conventional farmers putting so much chemicals on corn and soybeans that it would kill the crops if they weren't genetically modified to survive that kind of mistreatment.
Okay, so they're basically being genetically modified to handle the fertilizer, the chemicals that they're already putting on it.
Yeah, and of course the issue with that is that those don't just wash off; they get incorporated into the foods that we eat.
Yeah, and eventually into us.
Yeah,
and that's how it.
And then climb up the food chain.
Yeah, terrifying. Wow. So you grew up in an activist family, one might say.
Very much so.
Yeah. And what was it like growing up in Illinois?
It's just as exciting as you can imagine, staying out in the middle of a cornfield.
Yeah.
Which is not very.
No. Unless Kevin Costner's your dad and he makes you a baseball field. One of my favorite movies.
My dad, who's passed away, looks like Clint Eastwood. So, and I actually had Clint Eastwood direct me on something I was shooting once, which was a very strange experience. It was like being directed by my dad, who had already passed away. In Illinois, it's I'm from Central Illinois, which is definitely part of the flyover country that, people don't go there, they live there.
Yeah.
It's easier and faster for me to get from Los Angeles to London than to travel to my hometown in Illinois because of the changes to.
It's not easy going home.
No direct flight.
So I guess where's the story? I mean, how did you end up getting out of Central Illinois? Where'd you head after that?
Everything in my life is serendipity. I've had a very colorful life that has not gone as planned, which is good because it's better than anything I could have planned. So, I'm very fortunate that plans didn't go as I had expected.
Tell me about it. Yeah, that's why I'm here. I mean, to imagine after being 25 years living abroad, to now be kind of holed up here in Los Angeles is crazy. Not something I would have even imagined 3-4 years ago, because I was just traveling so much and making so much content and globe hopping as such. Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride.
When I was in grade school, I took a math test that changed my life.
You got to tell me this story.
So I'm in school, and I had a speech impediment as a child, so I didn't talk very well, and of course that gives you a lot of friends. Not really, no. And so...
Catching up on a bit of sarcasm there, but we're moving forward. Excellent. Yeah, I know speech impediments as a children children are terribly mean to each other at a certain age. That's got to be tough.
Well, and you grew up in a farming community. The kids there are pretty rough and tumble. It's not, don't expect a lot of kind, soft, it's like, you're a farmer.
Yeah. Not a lot of sympathetic ears.
No, there's no sympathy at all for anything.
Oh, wow.
But you grew up with an interesting attitude from living that way. So I took this math test, which to me was just another math test. I didn't know it was going to change my life. But it turned out that it was a national math competition. And when the scores came back, I had one of the highest scores in the country. And this was the first time that people kind of knew who I was in my school. They were like, really? That kid?
So you weren't an outstanding student, but this math test, you somehow just nailed it.
Well, I was an outstanding student, but not under the education system that we have in this country.
Wow, that's a whole nother podcast to unpack. Okay, good. So,
I took the hardest classes I could do. I was reading college textbooks when I was in grade school, and this doesn't make you an A student, though.
No.
An A student is someone that regurgitates what the teacher taught. And, I was a kid who, would raise my hand and, not speaking with the best English, say, no, that's not correct. If you read a college textbook, you would know that what you just said is not how math works.
Do you think like your speech impediment that you had growing up definitely hindered your ability to communicate these thoughts and feelings with your teachers? Was there some kind of stumbling block there too about your ability to convince, parents, teachers, just older people in general, like what was going on inside your head?
Well, I think we have, somewhat of a superficial society. I mean,
somewhat.
Some people even have an actress living in their homes, that nothing superficial about that profession.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, but I can't complain about it. I mean, I was born good looking. I was born of the, of the race that is for the most part not subjugated. I've had every advantage. I can't complain that I had a speech impediment as a child and that held me back. It's like, no, I mean, I was so much more fortunate than everyone else. And my speech impediment was corrected at age 16. So when I went to college at age 16, no one knew that I ever had a speech impediment. That was quite a striking difference because it was the summer between high school and college that it was finally dealt with. And, in college, I was just another student, but very young.
Wow. Yes. Going to college at 16 must have been crazy. Let's just go back a little bit though. So, how old were you when you took this national-wide math exam? Were you crushed it?
Well, I'd already skipped a year of school, and I was in high school and a freshman. So whatever that number would turn out to be. And they had this poster.
So you're like 12 or 13 years old at this stage.
Yeah. And so they had this poster on the wall that said, take the National College Entrance Exam. And I'd had such a happy experience with taking the national math test, even though that was now, years earlier, that I said, can I take the college entrance exam? And the counselor said, well, yeah, but you're just a freshman. Why would you take the college entrance exam? Oh, I love tests.
This is where your story and my story slides apart for sure. I did not love tests, so
Yeah.
I was an athlete,
Yeah.
but struggling with academics. But so you took the college entrance exam at like 12 or 13 as
Yeah,
a freshman?
something like that. Soon after I got into high school, and they asked me a question on the test though that stumped me. I already knew a lot of stuff from the test because I like to read college textbooks. That was my idea of fun, and then I actually took the prep book and memorized it. I had a photographic memory at this point, so I could just tell you what page stuff was on. It was crazy.
That's a good little cheat skill to have.
Yeah, it's again an unfair advantage that I've had in my life. And so I go to take the test, and on the front page, the question at the bottom is, and what college are you going to send your test scores to? Well, no one told me that anyone would be asking me that question. I hadn't prepared.
Right, because each school has its own like code, right? And you just have to type in the codes at the bottom. I think I had to do that on my SATs or something like that.
Well, I look up the code for you, but I had to name a school.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to college. I'm taking the test because I love tests.
Yeah.
But you have to fill it out. It's a required question on the test.
So what was at the tip of your tongue? Chicago, Harvard. What was the one that you?
Why I said, well, I'm interested in engineering. I'm in the cornfields of Illinois. I don't know anything about engineering schools. What's a famous engineering school?
Stanford, Carnegie Mellon,
MIT.
MIT. Yes, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That was the only one that I heard. I hadn't heard of either of those colleges at that age. And so I put down MIT.
And then what? You got into MIT?
And then I got a letter. Congratulations, you have one of the highest test scores in the country.
Oh wow!
You're accepted to MIT. Yeah.
At the age of like 12 or 13, or did you have to wait until you had a certain amount of classes?
Now we had a problem because I didn't live in Boston.
Right.
And so was my mom going to move with me to Boston? Was I going to go by myself to Boston? How was this going to work? And
because you're too young to like go to a university dorm. I mean, you're still like a real child. Like there's no way you would fit in with the campus.
Well, that was what people told me, but I certainly didn't fit in with my peers. So that held no terror for me at all. I would love to find other people I don't fit in with. Yeah, that's perfect for me.
Right. Amazing.
So, I ended up going to my high school principal and saying I've been accepted to MIT. And he said, well, you can't be. You're not an honors student at the school. How can you be accepted to MIT? I said, well, here's my letter. I'm accepted to MIT.
So there's a strange dichotomy here that maybe a lot of the guests might not get. Like in the United States, you have like a public university system where it's connected to the public school system, and you kind of have to go through the public school system before you can get into the public university system. Correct me if I'm wrong at any stage. And then what you also have is the private university system, and the private university system, they can accept and deny pretty much anyone at any time. You don't have to graduate high school. Like if you're just a genius at 13, MIT can take you without having to see your SAT scores or without having you to complete your high school diploma, right?
I have no idea about that.
But it happened to you.
Well, it happens to everyone, because if you're a senior in high school taking the college entrance exam, technically you haven't graduated yet.
Right, but
so MIT doesn't know that you're a freshman and not a senior who hasn't graduated.
Right, because they're only seeing the test scores. They're not seeing your entire
school you're from, and they're like, oh, okay,
Yeah. But they must see your age, right? They must see like, oh, there's not even.
I don't think so.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then I also got a letter from the Air Force that they said, would you like to be an Air Force officer?
Every 13-year-old's dream. Yeah.
And so I ended up not going to MIT, unfortunately. With hindsight, that would have certainly been a better choice. But you never know. Things turned out well for me anyway.
So where did you end up going?
I went to my parents' college first. My parents were alumni of the local liberal arts university.
Nice.
A school that you've never heard of, but nice little liberal arts with lots of red brick buildings. very typical.
Yeah.
And I also went to a local junior college,
Okay.
but I was still in high school.
So you're doing both.
Well, no, I just left high school and went to college and pretended I was still in high school.
Okay.
My high school said that that they would have me go to the junior college. I went to the university over the summer while I was still sorting this out, and then was enrolled in the junior college that fall as a high school student. So I could only I could only audit at the
Right. You could just sit in for the classes. You couldn't. Okay. Interesting. So you look through your resume and it's just packed with tech stuff. I mean, technology, engineering, AI, metaverse, defense industry. It's all the.
I loved Star Trek as a child.
Yeah. So that's what kind of got you into engineering and into this idea of creating.
I guess I've always been involved in that. At the same time that I was doing all this, I founded my first startup at age 16, which was a car company. So I was rebuilding cars when I was 16 years old.
That's amazing.
I'm going to high school. I'm going to college.
Just to make us all feel like we were just being useless, chasing girls and playing football.
Driving a tractor, and all that.
Yeah.
And breaking horses and all that.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like a very full experience. Like, you know how to do a lot of stuff, right? Like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, very, very self-sufficient. Grew up on the farm.
Well, city dwellers like me, like I grew up in Toronto, Canada. Like we just, you go to school, you maybe play some sports. Everyone plays a little hockey or something like that, and then you just get a job afterwards. But the experience of living on a farm, working on a farm, knowing how to drive a tractor, knowing how to break in horses, taking college entrance exams for fun at the age of 12. This is stuff that all kind of escapes us a little bit.
Well, this is not for everybody.
No.
Everyone looked at me like, what an odd person, Robin Rowe. But what he thinks of as fun is what most people think of as the opposite of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you started your first startup fixing cars at 16, and then where'd you go from there?
Well, after the 2-year college, I also asked them, are there any tests I can take? Because I love taking tests. And they said, well, you could take a proficiency test for all the courses that you've been in, and then it would count as college credit.
Oh my gosh! So you graduated college in a year? Is that how that story goes?
Well, a year and a half. But anyway, from junior college.
Yeah.
Yeah, not real college.
Yeah.
Yeah, something. And then I went off to a real university. I went off to the local university, not MIT at this point because I missed my ride. But I was very unsure what to do at this point. And holding me back, it had really made me uncertain about what I wanted my future to be. I had so many educators say to me that we've got to hold you back because, you won't adapt to be in such an adult environment, and, you'll feel out of place and you'll feel alienated. But I was totally alienated in the environment I was already in.
Right.
So anything would have been an improvement.
That's interesting, actually. Like not accounting for your current environment, just worried about what might be next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the premise was that I was a normal student. And I think we've already established that no normal student loves taking college entrance exams.
No, definitely not. No, absolutely. So what did you do? I mean, as you worked your way through university, and you obviously maintained this entrepreneurial spirit. So what did you get up to, No,
I went into the arts.
You went completely into the arts.
Well, I started as a math major because that had been my track the whole time. But the Chinese girl who was my roommate, she was a TA, and she would leave me voice messages on the phone, or something like that. And I'd be listening to them and thinking that she's speaking to me in Chinese. But then eventually it would dawn on me that she's actually speaking to me in English, and I just couldn't make it through her accent. have to understand,
Yeah,
in the
that's
Midwest,
tough.
I've never heard anyone with an
That's
accent.
tough. That's tough. Yeah, no, I get that.
And so so I couldn't really bond with my roommate because I didn't understand what she was saying. And then I realized that I didn't bond either with any of the other TAs or the math professors or anybody that was in my department because these people were so dull. They were just incredibly dull.
So Midwestern mathematics departments are just snooze fest.
Well, it was to be. I mean, I'm the kid that liked taking college entrance exams for fun. So who am I to judge what fun is fun? But when I got to the math department, I was like, these people are really smart, but they're just so plodding, and it's just so boring to be in these classes. I would just sink into my chair, and I'm just struggling to stay awake. And sometimes I couldn't. They would just put me right out.
Yeah. No, I bet I was not a math student, and math and science crushed me as well.
But I wasn't crushed by the math. I was crushed by the boredom.
I was crushed by both.
I was like,
I was crushed by both.
And so dull.
Yeah.
Because I'd already read these textbooks when I was in grade school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So when did you make the shift into the arts, and was it purely out of boredom?
No. My girlfriend at the time was a ballerina. By this time I had a girlfriend, and she had been a ballerina with the Joffrey Ballet and decided to go back to school and get her architecture degree. But she still danced. And the city that I was in for the university had a performing arts school. And I was so young that I was actually the age of a lot of the students in the performing arts school, even though I had a girlfriend who had danced with the Joffrey and gone back to college. And so I also went to the performing arts school because she was there taking classes because she wanted to keep her skills up even though she'd retired as a dancer. So I was taking all this dance because dancers I found very interesting. I found them very exciting, a lot of fun to talk to. I like the physicality of them, that they're not just kind of sitting there like a lump, that and if you touch someone, it's like, oh, what does that mean? It's like, well, yeah, whatever. It's, because in dance, you touch people constantly all the time. If you have a problem with touching people, you really can't be in the dance department.
No, you really have to embrace the fact that we're all there. Everyone there is working together, to bring a performance together, to train together, to get better together, right?
Yeah. Well, one of my teachers was the ballet master of the Milwaukee Ballet Company. And the first day of class, in the partners class I took with him, he said, gentlemen, let me tell you, the first thing you need to do is get your hands on the girl. Do not wait until after the first drink. Get the hands on the girl right now, because it is your job to not drop her.
Yeah.
If you have your hands on her and she's going down, then you're going down too. Do not be standing there with the girl on the floor. That should never happen.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah, no, I mean, the amount of times that men throw women up in the air in ballet performances and then just somehow catch them, or even in these, it's amazing how aggressive these cheerleading squads have gotten now, where like there's 3 or 4 people throwing these petite women and sometimes men up in the air, and then just catching them somehow. And there has to be people out there that are missing every now and then.
Yeah, it happens. I later went on to study under the top ballet master in the country. And he had done a leap so large that he had jumped off the stage and broken his leg. That was how he ended up being retired from the business.
That sounds terrible, but I can totally see it.
So high that he went into the orchestra pit.
Oh my God. I've never seen that. I'm sure there's got to be a YouTube video of that somewhere.
No, it's before that.
Before, not exactly your trainer, but some other trainer must have just done a leap right off the stage. I can see that.
Yeah, but it's more common that people leap through the stage. If you don't catch the ballerina, there's a good chance her point shoes will actually go through the decking of the stage.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, here's a question for you. What was the last ballet performance you saw?
It's been a long time.
I was in Moscow in January 2020, and I saw a performance of the Nutcracker at the Kremlin. They have a special performing arts center actually at the Kremlin. And this is strange because obviously Russia is an interesting talking point these days because of the war in Ukraine. And of course, January 2020 was right before COVID. I used to go to Russia all the time. I've climbed Mount Elbrus. I have a lot of friends in Russia that I climb with, from time to time. So I was going often and loved it. And I just remember that beautiful night in Moscow at the Nutcracker. And that was the last performance I saw before COVID and since.
Yeah, I can't remember the last thing I've seen, and I saw so many when I was in that world that I can't remember the sequence now. But I didn't travel to Russia, but I'm sure I've seen the Russian ballet multiple times. ABT, New York City, Trocaderos, everything.
Yeah, it's nice when everyone goes touring and you can pick up little pieces of everyone else's culture from time to time.
But I worked with a dozen of the major dance companies later as a dance cinematographer.
Oh,
so
fantastic!
I did more dance after that.
So when did you make the pilgrimage out to Los Angeles? Because this is like a key moment in every single person's life who's ever lived here. I mean, I've very rarely talked to anyone who was born and raised in Los Angeles. And when did you make that journey out west?
That was 20 years ago. And the way that happened is that I was writing a column for a magazine. I was the graphics columnist at Linux Journal, a very high-tech magazine. And I was interviewing the CTO of DreamWorks Animation. And at this point, I had been working as a research scientist with the Navy and with DARPA, and had been chief technologist at a defense company.
Oh.
And he said, "What do you do?" And so I told him what I just said. He said, "Oh, well, we hire the best in the world at DreamWorks Animation. If you ever want to come work at DreamWorks, just say the word." I said, "Okay, Ed, I'll say the word right now, and thank you very much, that I'm the best in the world." And so that was how I came to LA.
So you went from performance arts, ballet,
and we skipped a bunch of stuff.
Dancer, yeah, I know. Now it's time to go back. So ballet dancing to an engineer basically, and then now into DreamWorks. So what happened in between the dancing and that first leap into the defense industry and the engineering space?
Well, I went to television for a while. So while I was still at university in the dance department, we were producing a documentary about the dance department. And I was one of the students that was involved in that and became the cinematographer and then the editor. And so I spent the whole summer editing a dance documentary. And at the end of the summer, the station manager at the little cable station that had lent me the equipment to do this said, "Would you like a job in television?" And I said, "That'd be great. I'd love to work with you guys." He said, "Oh, no, not here. You don't want to work here. This place is awful. Let me make a phone call for you."
At least he or she was honest at that stage, yeah.
Yeah, and so that night I was working on the nightly news at NBC, same day.
Wow. And as a cinematographer, as an editor?
No, as a teleprompter.
As a teleprompter.
The only job that I had never had any training and didn't know how to do, but that was the lowest level job that they had at the studio.
That's the most important job. Have you ever seen, Ron Burgundy, the anchorman, right? Where he misreads the teleprompter at that one stage.
And you can imagine how I was the first night. I'm just awful.
Absolutely. No.
But I mastered it by the next night, and so it was all right. And then I became camera operator in the studio, then floor director, which manages the camera operators on the floor, and then Chiron operator, which is the graphics for the newscast, and then technical director for the news. So that I would switch the news with the nightly news 6 and 10 every night.
Wow, all that from running a teleprompter.
Well,
you worked your way right up.
All that from producing a dance documentary.
Yeah, no, that's impressive as well. And so did you? I mean, you've done so many things. Like, did you have a real bug for being in the studio and being around?
I loved working in live TV. There's nothing like it. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And how did you pursue that then? What did you pursue after that? I mean, did you?
Well, then I became a dance cinematographer.
Okay.
Logically.
There's not a lot of straight lines here in your story. I'm working to stay up with you on this. So you went from dancing to making a dance documentary to then being on the nightly news and running a nightly news show 2 a night, and then you went back into dance cinematography.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I wanted to be a director in NBC, but all the TDs had just been promoted. We had a fresh crop of TDs, and I was the most junior. And so I'm like, a TD, they usually, a year or two at least to have a shot at director. And so I said, well, I love working at this station, but I don't know that I want to, just kind of rummage as a TD for the next year. But Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival is the #1 dance festival in the world. All the major dance companies go there. It's in Lee, Massachusetts, near Albany. And so I reached out to them and I said, hey, do you guys need a dance cinematographer? Because I'm looking for something fun to do this summer. And I could come out and be your dance cinematographer. And they said, yeah, come on in.
Wow. And how old were you at this stage where you were kind of flipping back and forth between news and performing arts?
I can't track my age through all this. I think I'm about 1,000 years old. So.
Well, you've definitely done a lot of things to justify that feeling. No, like you're in your 20s now, I guess,
yeah,
right?
I'm in my 20s, yeah.
Yeah. And what was going back into?
That was 1987.
Okay.
So whatever that is.
Yeah. And what was it like going back into performing arts?
I loved it because I was around dancers again. In fact, I was now living with dancers. And when I had tried to be a dancer myself, I was asked to join the Bloomington Ballet Company, the ballet company in Central Illinois. But I just couldn't see living in Central Illinois. I'd grown up there and was kind of like, oh, don't want to go back. And so I went to Chicago at that time and studied with Hubbard Street, which is, in my opinion, the top dance company in Illinois, in Chicago. But I ended up going to Jacob's Pillow and being the dance cinematographer, but because I was staff, I could take the classes. So I was getting classes with the top dance masters in the world, and that was enough for me. I didn't really have the bug to be a performer. I like being behind the scenes, but I like the physicality of dance. I didn't.
It's incredible, yeah.
I wanted to actually be involved physically.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting, and it's interesting that you were able to identify early on that you didn't want to be a performer and to be traveling around on tour, with a dance company.
Well, no, a dance conference did that for me. I went to a dance conference in Chicago when I was considering the Bloomington offer, and one of the conference speakers, I was just there as an attendee, had a room of like 200 dancers that are all pros or semi-pros in the room, and said, who here makes more than $20,000 a year? By a show of hands. One person raised their hand. I was like, I can't do this.
It's not a living. It's not a living.
I need a sugar daddy if I'm gonna have this profession. This doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so that was how I ended up leaving, being a dancer myself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And when did you during this period decide, oh, engineering is where you want to be?
Well, when I was at the mid-market NBC station in Illinois, I was also working at another station as a master control engineer. The master control engineer at this station would sit up all night on the chance that the circuit breaker would trip, so that he could jump up from sleeping at his desk and walk the 20 feet to the panel and pull the switch to bring the station back on the air.
And that was your job?
That was my job. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. And so it's like,
amazing.
I could sleep in my bed, or I could sleep on the desk in master control and
pick up a second wage.
And I was broke. So it was like, so I had two jobs. And the station went off the air once in the time that I was there. So I was incredibly, useful to the operation.
Some might say you saved the station.
Yeah, I saved the station. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm just curious, like when did engineering really fit in? I mean,
well, that made me an engineer. Technically, I was a broadcast engineer by working in master control.
Right, but how do you go from like running a master control at a television station in the middle of the night to working at a defense company or working for DreamWorks later on, and like where's that leap come from?
Oh, well, first you switched to broadcast engineering by getting a job building the studios at NBC Chicago.
Okay, so you're building studios at NBC Chicago.
So I'm pulling 100 miles of cable is basically it. And we're still at the peak of the analog days, so it has to be zero timed. So with a digital signal, you plug in the cable and it's like, okay, we're done. With an analog signal, it's a wave on that cable, and you have to chop the cable right where the wave is in the right spot. Otherwise, it won't lock, it won't sync to next piece of gear that you have.
Really?
So
I had no idea about this.
The cable has to be cut to the inch or better. Otherwise, the gear can't lock because it's out of phase with the, you just get noise.
Really? And that's because the signals were all wave back in the day, and there was no...
It has to be a wave.
Right, and there was no digital anything.
Not on the cables, there wasn't. We were just starting to see DVEs, digital video effects machines, and stuff like that. But the cables were still all analog. And so my job was to cut a cable as long as maybe necessary, but to the inch.
To the inch.
Yeah.
And you were putting together entire studios in Chicago.
Well, the NBC studios in Chicago are a dead ringer of 30 Rock in New York. So if you've seen a picture of the 30 Rock building in New York, you know exactly what the building looks like in Chicago. It's identical.
Yeah, Rockefeller Plaza. Yeah, there's no exactly. Yeah. Everyone watched. Who didn't watch 30 Rock? That was a great show. Yeah.
Well, and that was what it was like working in Chicago. Only it wasn't New York. It was Chicago.
All right.
And so this was the most robotic television studio in the world. No camera operators. The cameras are autonomous.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen there's like when you do a news interview at a network, there's no person standing behind the camera. It's all just people behind glass in some big, up.
Well, not even that. That station can run without people at all. If you could put the anchor in his seat and have him hit his cues, that was all you needed. The station could run itself.
That's amazing.
Can completely run it.
Fully automated.
Fully automated. The decks, the cameras, the switcher, everything.
Wow. And that was back.
That was in 1990.
That was 1990. You didn't even need people. And now people are talking about getting rid of people.
Yeah, it's very funny to me to hear this as though it's like something new that you've been doing for, 30 years.
So where did you head after NBC Chicago?
So the systems integrator, I didn't work directly for NBC. I was a contractor with the systems integrator who was building out the new studio. And so I went to NBC. I say went, I was already there because I'm in the building it. But I talked to the person from NBC and said, the company that I work with, they're going to build Universal Studios in Florida next. But my girlfriend at this point now lives in Chicago. So I don't want to go to Florida. I want to stay in Chicago. Can you guys give me a job at NBC Chicago? And he's like, well, yeah, we work with you every day. You're great. Come in on Monday and we'll set that up.
That's fantastic. That was great. Like, that's very convenient.
Well, that seems so. But on Friday, General Electric, which owned NBC at that point, announced a hiring freeze that no one can be hired.
And there's the rub.
And so I could wait for the hiring freeze to unfreeze. But the problem with that is because I come from a mid-market station, I had no union seniority in the Chicago broadcasting stuff. So, and because I was a contractor, we could work around that. And because NBC had hired back every single person that had any union seniority at all who wanted to come back and had one seat left is how I had gotten the job in the first place. I didn't have the union seniority even to get the job, but there was one seat for someone who was like a Taft-Hartley, type of situation.
Just a fresh face.
Yeah, fresh face, and I got it. And so I'm like, okay, well, now I just have to hold on. But when the hiring freeze hit, that meant that they were going to lay off a whole bunch of people with union seniority. And those people would all have to be hired back before they could hire me, because I still didn't have union seniority.
So when the unions have to lay off people, they lay off people with the most seniority, and then those are the first people that have to be hired back?
No. The union doesn't lay them off. The studio lays them off. But the point is that the contract that the union had negotiated with the studio was that jobs will be offered to union employees first, to union members first.
Right.
So
Okay.
they
Now
all
I get
bunch
it.
of
Right.
union
Right.
members.
Right.
And you're non-union and want to get a job, they all have to turn it down before they can offer it to you,
Oh, wow. That's convenient.
which is never.
Which is never, yeah, because everyone will want their jobs back probably at some
Right.
stage. So you're never going to get hired.
Well, that was my conclusion. With hindsight, if I'd hung out for another year or two, I would have gotten back because all those people got starved out. All the people that got laid off went on to other jobs eventually. And I could have gotten called back if I was willing to hang in Chicago for 2 years. But I didn't know that at the time, and probably better that I did.
Well, you were already on your way to your next thing, right?
Right, I'm already on my way to the next thing, which I didn't know what that was.
Isn't that a beautiful feeling when you're just like
No, it's
bouncing around from thing to thing and you don't know?
It's not beautiful at all to be dangling, no.
When you're young, though, when you're young, like I went to China when I was 22. I had no idea what was going on, and I was just kind of bouncing from thing to thing, and it was pretty wild. I don't know. It's not.
I'm still bouncing around. I guess I love it. I'm still doing it. By this point, Microsoft had released Windows, and because I was struggling in Chicago, I was working by this point as a computer consultant. I'd taken a computer class at Northwestern in Chicago so that I knew some programming stuff. I'd also taken programming way back when I was at the junior college. So I knew several different programming languages at this point.
So at this stage, you're a trained dancer, a cinematographer, a director, a studio engineer who can run an entire studio by themselves, and you also learned programming along the way just for kicks.
Yeah,
and now all of a sudden you needed it.
But you left out farmer and horse trainer.
Right. From the early days.
Yes.
In central Illinois. Yeah. Okay. So, I'm just staying up with you. I'm loving this. Okay. So you're coding and acting as a computer consultant.
Except Microsoft released Windows. And so everyone said, well, we're not going to do any programming for MS-DOS anymore because it's over. But we don't know what we're going to do instead yet. So everyone who's a computer consultant, just wait for a year while we decide what we're going to do, and then we'll hire you back to do more computer consulting.
Because Windows just totally changed the game, and no one knew how it was going to land or how people were going to use it.
There's no work for DOS. There's no work for Windows. Because DOS is like, well, there's no point in developing more DOS stuff. And Windows, it's so new. We're not ready yet. We have to think about this. We have to plan. What's our strategy? They have to write a contract for this. They have to write, a description of what they want built. And they don't know. They've never built a Windows. The company that's going to hire me as a consultant is going to ask me to build something, but they haven't decided yet what to build.
And they don't even know how to build on top of Windows because it's so new.
Well, that's all right. They're going to hire me to do that, but they haven't even decided what they want to build on Windows. That is a big problem for me.
Right.
That means I don't have employment, because until they decide, they're not going to hire me.
And even if they did decide, did you have enough skills programming wise to be able to do it, or you would have been able to figure it out?
I've never had enough skills for any job that I've had. Yeah, I've always had to learn on the job.
That's amazing.
I wasn't born knowing how to farm. I wasn't born knowing how to horseback ride. Television I got into just because.
Yeah, but the photographic memory as a kid with the math.
Well, also that I love to work.
Yeah.
That this is very weird to people as well. That I enjoy working.
Being busy is the best. I love it.
No, not busy. I want to be doing something that's real work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just want to uncoil a cable and coil it. In broadcasting, I was called out on a truck shoot. And so I'm working with this huge sports company. They've got a semi-trailer with a huge satellite dish on top of it. And sorry, I didn't mean to bump your camera.
No worries. We're still connected. We're good. Yeah.
Robin waves his arm. I'm standing there because I'm technical director on this sports shoot. We're covering a basketball game, and the director looks over me, or maybe it was one of my coworkers. I don't remember who it was now. He says, "Robin, take a cable off the truck and roll it out and coil it back up again." I'm like, what? It's not my job.
So you look busy.
Right, and so you look busy. I'm like, oh, okay. So I know how to coil a cable because I'd worked at a TV station. So I roll a cable out and I roll it back nicer than they were accustomed to because, I have to do everything. I have to overview everything. So, that's how I end up doing all this stuff. That, So anyhow, I can't get any work as a software consultant because everything is frozen.
Or brand new, or so new that the people don't even know what they want.
Well, it's the transition.
Yeah.
So every all the decision makers are frozen, deciding what they're going to do next. And I'm like, well, in Chicago, it's going to take a year for it to trickle down, and I can't hold my breath for a year. I have to work. And so where could I go that they're already doing Windows? What would be the logical city for me to go to at this point?
Like you go to Seattle to go to the campus, you go to Silicon Valley, you go to New York.
You would go to Redmond, Washington and get an apartment with a view of Microsoft.
Right.
But the Microsoft is literally across the street from my apartment.
So you made a pilgrimage to Washington.
Yes, I picked up and moved to Washington and wanted a job at Microsoft, but I couldn't get Microsoft to bite on me.
Okay.
I'd had such a colorful background. They're like, he's a farmer, dancer, television.
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to get my hands around it, and I'm not running HR at Microsoft.
What is this guy's lane? We don't understand who he is.
There's nothing worse than staying in your lane. It's great to be all over the place sometimes.
Yeah. Well, my lane, it turned out later, is innovation, but most people don't see that as a lane. So then I said, well, I know how to program in C++, which at this point is still a very fresh language. What if I would offer like a 3-day seminar to companies that I will come in and teach your guys who know C, which is a subset of C++. I'll take your guys and I'll run them through in 3 days, not a semester at the university. In 3 days, I'll take them through the whole shebang.
And it's 3 days, and like, I don't know anything about programming, but is for someone who's already competent in programming, is like a 3-day crash course enough to get up to speed in what you wanted to share with them?
Depends on what you mean.
Well, if you run like a 3-day conference on, the new programming code language, is 3 days enough if someone's already had some experience? Or were you, teaching these people from scratch?
Well,
yes.
If you're, if someone's a professional pilot and a new plane comes out that works differently from any plane that they've seen before, and you say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to fly this plane in 3 days. Is that reasonable?
I think it's totally reasonable, actually, because if they already understand how a plane works and they're already trained on a plane, then
would you want to fly with them? No.
Maybe not on the first flight on day 4, but after a couple months, it might be all right.
Right. So I'm saying it depends on what your expectation is.
Sure.
But if you're just getting your people up to speed and you're going to take a few months, and they're just starting their project, and it's very reasonable. But if you're thinking that they're good to go after 3 days, then no, that's not reasonable.
That's not happening. But so what was it like living in Redmond, Washington? I've never even been.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
The water there is better than bottled. So the water out of the tap would be the same stuff that you would get if it was in a plastic bottle here.
Amazing.
Yeah. So you're showering in bottled water.
Oh wow.
Skin problems go away. It's the air is very clear where I was.
On a slight aside, have you ever been to Vegas?
Oh, yeah.
I've been to Vegas off and on the last couple months. I do some speaking events there and stuff like that. And Vegas has they chlorinate their water as a way to purify it, right?
Right.
And when
it'll keep you safe from bugs. It doesn't purify it.
It doesn't.
It kills the bugs in it, so now you can drink dead bugs instead of live bugs.
Right. But you get chlorine in the water, and then when you shower and you wash your face and everything like that, the chlorinated water does stick.
In Beverly Hills.
Really?
So every municipality does that, yeah.
But in Vegas, I can really smell it. Like, I feel like they don't even...
The better is, the more you have to dose it.
Okay, good to know, though. The worse your water is, the more it smells like chlorine.
Yeah, the more it smells like a swimming pool, that tells you that the water they're starting with is, not so great. They have to really...
They have to really do it. Okay, so Redmond, Washington was idyllic in every way of the word, or at least with the water.
The water
and the air
is lovely, and the air was good. And so I did this course that I trained at engineers at different engineering companies around town, because Seattle's a big engineering town because of Boeing.
Boeing and now Amazon too, right? It's huge. The campuses out there are
Oh yeah,
massive.
there was no Amazon then.
That's true. This is before, pre-Bezos.
This is before. And so then I founded the C++ users group and ran it out of the rec room of my apartment complex. And so every month I would have people come in and give a talk about what they're doing in C++. And that led to changing my life as well. So then I get a call from the University of Washington. Robin, we hear that you teach this killer seminar on C++. How would you like to come and teach night school at the University of Washington?
Wow. And that's just from your monthly group. That the word got out.
Someone who had taken my class, apparently. One of the engineers from my 3-day seminar had said, this guy is great, you've got to hire him. Or a more likely possibility is the University of Washington said, we've got this new guy and he's putting people in 3-day seminars instead of putting them in our night school certificate program.
Right.
Let's take this guy out of the market.
Yeah, because and bring him onto our side, right?
Yeah, let's bring him to our side.
Because we need to be signing these kids up or these people up for full semesters.
They're like grizzled engineers. These are not kids. These are guys like,
yeah. But they want you for 8 weeks, 12 weeks, not 3 days.
13
weeks.
13 weeks.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I said, yeah, but I'm not really a professor guy. I skipped school and I didn't get to go to MIT and blah, blah. And I said, that's all right. I said, well.
Can waive some of those criteria.
I said, well, technically I didn't finish my undergraduate degree because I left as a junior to build the studios at NBC. And then I meant to go back, but I've been busy.
Yeah.
And so they said, oh, well, we can ignore that because it's a certificate program. So you don't have to be an accredited teacher.
Professor, because that's only for the diploma programs.
Yeah, it's not a diploma program. So you can skate. Like, awesome. Great. I'm down. Let's go. And so I did that for a year. And then I was speaking at the Semantic C++ conference in Monterey. And my friend who ran the C++ users group with me in Seattle, his brother is a professor at the Naval Postgraduate School, which is also in Monterey. This is the #1 naval academy in the world. This is where you go after getting your undergraduate at Annapolis. You go to the Naval Postgraduate School to get your postgraduate military degree.
Wow. So you go to Annapolis to do in Maryland, right?
Yeah.
Do an undergraduate degree.
If you're a military officer track. I didn't.
If you're on that track.
If you're on that track, then you want to get your degree from Annapolis, and then you go out and you serve, and then you come back and get your graduate degree from the Naval Postgraduate School.
Okay, because this whole world is not something I know anything about.
Neither did I.
No. So would you apply to Annapolis to be in the Navy the same way you would apply to MIT, for example?
No, I would have been an ROTC officer like the Air Force invited me when I was a child. And I'd have gone through that program, and then that would have led to me being accepted at Annapolis. And then I'd have gotten my undergrad at Annapolis. And then I'd have gone and served, if I'm decided to go with the Navy instead of the Air Force, which is where I ended up, I would serve on a destroyer or an aircraft carrier somewhere as a lieutenant or something like that.
And how close was all of this to Top Gun coming out in the late 80s?
Yeah, it's all in the movies.
It's all in the movies, exactly.
Yeah. And then after you serve on a ship somewhere or deployment of whatever branch you're in, then if you do well, you come back and go to the Naval Postgraduate School, and the military pays for you to get your degree, to get your graduate degree and your doctoral degree.
And that's in Monterey.
And that's in Monterey, California.
Okay.
Just up the coast here.
And then after finishing that 2-year degree, then you become like a naval officer? Is that how
you're already a naval officer?
Oh.
No, you go to Annapolis, you become a naval officer, and then after you've served your rotation as an officer, and now now that you have a decision, are you going to re-up? You've done your 3 years, or doing on the length of your program.
So you can join the rank Navy civilian again.
And the Navy wants to keep you. They don't want you to leave because you've been a lieutenant on a destroyer. They don't want you to go to private business. How are they going to entice you?
Well, there's no destroyers or F-16s in private business.
Really, but what if you don't really care? What if you're like, well, that was nice, but I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then you walk and you go work at Boeing or
you go work.
or you go to Silicon Valley, work at IBM.
But the Navy doesn't want that.
Right.
So what they say is, "Have we got a sweet deal for you? You've only got your undergraduate degree. Wouldn't you like to have a master's or a PhD? We will pay for you to go to school. We will keep you in the Navy as an officer. You'll keep your current pay status and perks and everything as a naval officer, and you get to go to school."
Wow.
It's a marvelous deal if that's the track that you're on. Now you're on your way to becoming an admiral.
Right, which is a long haul.
Yeah.
So you were teaching at the University of Washington.
Yeah.
And then you ended up, and then this Naval Academy in Monterey asked you to come down and what? Teach?
No, at all.
Oh.
No, I came down, and my friend who runs the C++ users group in Seattle, his brother teaches there.
Oh.
He's a professor.
Okay.
And so I say, "Oh, well, I'll see your brother, while I'm down there. I'd love to take a look at the school and see what that's like. Because I don't know anything about the Naval Postgraduate School. I'd never heard of it."
No, neither did I until today. Yeah. So
until now.
we're fresh. We're fresh.
What is this? Everyone's heard of Annapolis, but NPS is actually better than Annapolis if you're getting your graduate degree. So I go down there, and the professor introduces me to the chairman of the computer science department, his boss. And the chairman says, "Well, Robin, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, well, I teach C++ at the University of Washington." He said, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing there next?" I said, "Well, it's the end of the semester, so, I'll be starting to teach the next semester." I said, "Well, how about instead of teaching it there, you teach it here? Don't go back to the University of Washington. Come to the Naval Postgraduate School." And I said, "Oh, well, what's the deal?" He said, "Oh, well, we'll make you an adjunct professor now. We'll give you 6 years to complete your master's and, if you wish, your PhD."
But you only need like 10 days for that, as you've previously proven.
No, by this time, I'm a little cold in the education. I know C++. If you want, if it's a degree in C++, then yeah, I'm God. But no, I have been out of school for a while now. And then in 6 years, if you fulfill all that, and we like you, we'll make you a tenured professor, and you're guaranteed employment for life.
Wow. 6 years, and you're guaranteed employment as a tenured professor for life.
Yeah, or not. Yeah, they could decide, no, you're not for us. You don't match our culture or whatever. But,
right.
You're not smart enough, or, but if
it's a captivating deal, you must admit.
But if I ride the ride to the end, then that's the prize at the finish line.
So what did you do? We're all waiting. Did you take the deal? Did you take the deal?
The deal. Who would not take that deal?
Yeah. But for the whole 6 years?
Well, not exactly.
This is where the next twist comes from. I'm loving this.
So I said, well, a little bit of a twist here. I haven't actually got my undergraduate degree. I only went 3 years and didn't get to go my senior year of university because I went to NBC.
Were they able to waive that the same way the University of Washington did?
You are in luck, because we are technically the U.S. Navy. If you went to any other school in the world, they would not be able to offer you this deal. But because we are the U.S. government, we can waive our own rules, and we can make you a professor in an accredited program without having graduated from an accredited university.
Wow, so that's the real power of the U.S. government and the military branches, right?
And you will get your undergraduate here. You'll complete it here, and you'll go on and get your master's, and if you wish, your PhD.
Amazing. So that's a hell of an opportunity right off the bat like that.
Oh, who can say no to this? I mean, this is amazing. I'm finally going to complete my degree, and all this stuff I've been meaning to do for years, but something exciting just keeps coming along.
Right. It's you really did kind of like bounce around from exciting thing to exciting thing. Did you have an interest in like joining the armed services at any stage, or did you just want the education? And I mean, like, was being in the Navy part of the draw, or was part of the draw?
Technically, I'm a civil servant. I'm a GS-13 or something like that. I'm not enlisted. I can quit anytime.
But when you were a professor there, you also weren't in the military. You were also just a civil servant. So
right, but my employer is the Navy. I'm in the Navy, but I'm not in the Navy.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get at. Okay, so you were working for the Navy as a civil servant, a federal government employee.
Yes.
But you were not
employee.
You were not in the Navy as a naval officer.
No.
Okay.
No. So
I'm just trying to catch up. I'm trying to catch up. Yeah, this is amazing though. And very interesting.
All right. So so that's going on, and they said, but we're going to sweeten the deal because we like you. So we're also going to make you a research scientist.
Okay.
And it wasn't put to me in this language because nobody knew what it would become then. But what they offered me was to build the first metaverse ever.
Really?
Yeah.
So you got involved in building the first metaverse ever, funded by the Naval Academy.
Funded by the Department of Defense.
Department of Defense, yes.
Definitely not the Naval Academy. That's something else.
That's something else. But and what year was this? What year was this forward-thinking metaverse development?
This was in 1995.
Oh my God! So this is just around like the same time as the internet becoming widely available to the mass population. Because I remember high school.
I had my first website the same year.
Yeah. I remember I was like, it was like 93 maybe, 92, 93, 94, somewhere in there, where we just started getting like dial-up internet access.
Oh yeah, just
at our school.
I was on dial-up,
Yeah. But to be so forward-thinking, to start building a metaverse or to start even thinking about it is pretty massive at that early stage.
Yeah. So I go to my office, and there's a long hallway that leads to my office. My office is clear at the end of the hall at NPS. And the hallway is literally filled with pieces of styrofoam packing. Just everywhere are boxes and styrofoam packing. We had the largest academic installation of supercomputing graphics computers in the world.
Okay. Wow.
And I get to have a SGI Indigo, which was the fastest desktop computer of the time, on my desk. Is thrown into the deal.
So the Department of Defense paid out the big money to get you the toys, the tools, graphics cards, supercomputers.
Well, there were no graphics cards then. This is before graphics cards.
Okay.
The whole computer is dead. It is a graphics card.
Right, all in one.
Yeah.
The one box shop.
Well, the idea of a graphics card came out of the SGI computers. That people said, well, if we had a GPU in a slot in a PC, it could do the same thing that this whole computer does.
Right.
But those
saving time and space.
But those didn't exist yet.
Okay.
So I didn't have one of those.
So you're stationed in Monterey working for the Department of Defense trying to build the future.
Yeah.
The metaverse.
Not trying to. We built the future.
Are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah.
Well, walk me through how this played out.
So in 1995, we have what looks and acts like Call of Duty, but of course Call of Duty doesn't exist yet either. And PCs that can run Call of Duty don't exist yet either. The only place in the world that can run the system is where I am. So you have to, come to my lab in Monterey, or some other labs across the country that also were connected to the system, because it was the first networked metaverse. I think the only connection we had at that time was Fort Meade. And so you could play Call of Duty in 1995 if you worked in my lab or were an officer at Fort Meade.
So this is interesting. So you could say like this idea of the metaverse and having us all exist in it definitely came out of the video game space, but you basically created a video.
It was military first.
It was military
first. Everyone says, "Oh, the video game space created all this." No. All the people that worked on the game that the metaverse game, it was called NPSnet. Everyone who worked on that went on to be in the gaming industry, and the head of the project became the head of the game department at USC.
Okay.
So that's where all of this came from. It all came out of this school that no one's ever heard of that built the very first system, and people saw that and they were like, "Oh my God."
and they saw the entertainment value in that. Maybe instead of the military,
we would play all day with it. You know, people, you know, because there was no meter. If you could, I had a computer on my desktop. I could play on it all day if I wanted to. You know, it would be like being given a PlayStation in 1995. Can you imagine?
And yeah, you know, I can. I mean, but I think, you know, I think at that stage, obviously, we had video games, but they weren't as immersive.
No, you had Star Wars with these, like, you know, you had Pong. You know, they were black and white.
95 was a little more than that. I remember, like, I don't know, maybe 97, I remember, like, FIFA soccer. I remember, like, a lot of the sports games. But 97 was actually, I remember this specifically because I was in freshman year of university. That James Bond game came out on one of the platforms.
That's years later. That's not 1995.
No, it was 2 years after that. So
yeah.
So by 2 years later, people had already gone into your program and left and gone into the gaming industry to build these things out for the consumer population.
Yeah, or just visited us. You know, it wasn't a closed lab. You didn't have to have a security clearance. If you knew someone at the lab, you could get an invite. Yeah, come whenever you want.
And was the idea that you were building like a training platform?
Yes.
Okay.
So we had two training purposes. We had Abrams tanks, Apache attack helicopters, dismounted infantry, and a submarine. So the idea was that you want to put out a SEAL team. They're going to go out in a submarine, and they're going to do various things. And so you want to train them what to do if there's a casualty in a submarine. So when I was in the lab every day, I'd hear fire, 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 fire in the engine room. You know, all personnel, you know, because you only have about 30 seconds to put out a fire on a submarine before you're all dead. So it's a fire is really bad if you're underwater in a can.
I believe so. Yeah, no, that sounds terrible. So you would create like a simulation of what to do in that event, or would you
create a simulation of the actual submarine?
Right.
You know, it looked like Call of Duty, but inside a submarine. And so, you know, you would play this game where you'd say, okay, you know, go grab the fire extinguisher, and you'd run it over and you'd grab the fire extinguisher, and you know, no, you have to go to the base of the flames. Don't put it up there. You won't put the fire out fast enough.
This is interesting. So as a content creator, as someone who filmed and traveled all around the world, like when you want to build a submarine and then allow people to use a game platform to access the submarine and operate on the submarine, like you have to shoot the whole submarine, like you have to film it, you have to do...
This is all 3D. This is all 3D model.
All 3D modeling.
Yeah, it's like Call of Duty. It's not a real submarine. It's a virtual submarine.
And you were able to put all that together.
We've got the specs.
Yeah.
We don't have to go out and shoot anything. We make the submarine.
That's incredible.
You know, they just tell us, you know, how you want it to be.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But so you didn't make the jump into the gaming industry with all of your peers or some of your friends?
Not. Well, yes, I did, but not at that time.
Okay.
So, yeah, we were building this game, and Congress went on strike. I'd been at the Naval Postgraduate School a year now, and because I was so busy with being both a professor and a research scientist, I was also the department advisor for robotics. And so between those roles, I was pretty busy, and I hadn't really taken any classes. I was supposed to be taking classes and getting my undergraduate, but I had 6 years. I'm like, well, you know, I should really settle in and do my job well the first year, and then next year, you know, I'll concentrate more on doing some of that stuff, because it was a really high pressure environment. It wasn't like,
I believe so, yeah.
You know, it wasn't like people were like, oh, you know, take your time, Robin. It was like, you know, hurry it up. And so a year in, Congress goes on strike. Well, I'm not enlisted. I'm a civil servant. Well, what happens when Congress doesn't pass the budget?
And then you also had to go on strike too, or you were just furloughed? Furloughed, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm like, well, I've never experienced this before. What does this mean? They said, oh, furlough is very easy to understand. What we do is...
Go home and we'll call you later.
No, you don't do that.
Okay.
What we do is you say that you're going home, but at night you come in and you sneak into the base and do your work in your office, because your office has the computer that you need. You can't take that computer home.
There's no work from home when you're working for the DD in 1995?
No.
DOD.
Yeah. And so, And then when furlough is over, what we think will happen is that we'll make you whole, that we'll pay you for all those hours. But we can't promise that because Congress decides that. They could decide that no, they won't pay you for all the time that you were sneaking into your office.
But you did it anyways because you love the project, or what? You just wanted to see it, finished up?
This doesn't sound like the great deal I was promised. I was promised all this stuff, and now they're not going to pay me. And so I'm like, well, I'm not sure what to do about this. So I got a call. SAIC, the contractor that I'd done the NBC job with, who I hadn't spoken to in years, called me up out of the blue and said, hey, we have the perfect job for you, but we can't tell you what it is.
Oh, that's very auspicious and interesting. So, but they know you're working for the Department of Defense.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And they have a job for you, and maybe So how do you get tapped for a job that they can't tell you about? And what is your thought process on accepting a job that no one can tell you about?
Well, this is my choice. I can stay where I am and work for free and be a tenured professor in another 5 years, or I can take the surprise job and see what that is. But that job will make me a program manager. And I've never had a program manager title before, and I would really like to be a program manager.
So just a year before, you were like gung-ho on academia and getting a PhD and being a professor.
I still was.
Yeah.
I mean, not a year before, a day before.
Yeah. But then someone tapped you and said program manager, something top secret, and you're just like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I said, but wait, I've got a free ride here. They're going to pay for all my education. They said, don't worry, we want you. We'll send you to Stanford.
Oh, there's that, not bad. So they sent you to Stanford while you were working?
No. They said we'll eventually send you to Stanford.
Oh, there's the rub. Okay. Yeah.
And
maybe
just like I was eventually going to get my degree at the Naval Postgraduate School, because that first year there was no possible way. I'd also signed a book deal to write a textbook that year as well, which I didn't get done.
In the programming, in programming?
C++, yeah.
Okay.
And so it was just too much. I was overwhelmed, and I came down with a cold, and I was like, I think I've overextended here. This is too much.
Sure.
And so I went to SAIC in San Diego.
What does that actually stand for?
It's an acronym, but if you spell it backwards, it's really more indicative of what the company is. So SAIC, if you can spell that backwards, you know who they are. Okay. Then they serve the Pacific Fleet. So they're based out of San Diego and also out of McLean for Washington, D.C. And
San Diego is a huge naval hub.
Yeah, it's the Pacific Fleet.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it like living in San Diego?
San Diego was great.
Yeah.
I had a view of 3 aircraft carriers outside my window.
Not bad. That's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. And so I got my top secret clearance and found out what my job was.
How do you get a top secret clearance, if you don't mind me asking, or is that top secret?
No.
Do you have to do a lie detector test?
Only if you're going for SCI.
Okay.
That's the next level above top secret. I was offered SCI, and
because I'm Canadian, right? We don't have a fucking clue what goes on down here in the United States, and of course I've been abroad forever, so I
have no clue either. So don't feel bad. don't feel that being Canadian gets you any special.
Special stupidity points?
No.
Okay.
No, we have plenty of stupidity here. We don't need to import it.
Time to go back to Canada.
So, no, what you do at that time, this is before Snowden, so I'm sure it's quite different by now. But pre-Snowden, what you did is it was like filling out a lease application, except you had to name every place you'd lived and everyone who knew you for the past 10 years.
Oh, that is terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
and they would contact every single one. And so
really? Like full background check?
Yeah, and they would say, is Robin a spy? Is he? Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And so they contact everyone that you've ever known and ask them, is Robin okay? Can we trust him with state secrets?
And could they? You pass with flying colors? Or was there any like?
Well, the irony was that after I got my top secret clearance, China stole the records.
Oh.
So China got all that information as well.
So they know who was who.
So I know everyone that I knew for the past 10 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I've never had any top secret clearance, so this is all new information to me. But I would not pass one of those top secret clearance lease forms.
So I like
in any way. Sure. You love tests, but
it's another test.
I've just met so many crazy people, like living in China, living in Dubai, traveling all over the world.
Yeah, I'm from the Midwest.
Yeah.
So I'm very safe.
I love how you preempt that with your Midwest background. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they looked at that and said, Illinois.
U.S. flag on the porch.
Oh, no. You had a flag 12 feet long flying from a flagpole in our front yard every day. And my dad served as a lieutenant in an aircraft carrier in the Navy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And yes, it was his job to throw the encoding machine over the side if they were captured by the Japanese. And he said it wasn't really clear to him what he was supposed to do next, but he thinks what they wanted to do was to go with it.
Just wrap it to his wrist, and then
go to the bottom.
Flies over the edge with it.
Yeah.
So these are like the coding machines that they were using to break the Japanese codes in World War.
This is the other side.
Oh.
This is the coded messages from DC to the admiral saying attack Midway.
Right. Okay. So if anything were to happen, that machine would go, be like 30,000 feet under.
Yeah.
Hopefully not with your father's wrist attached to it.
Well, he said it wasn't clear, so they didn't really lay out what he does after that.
Right. Wow.
But he said if the situation was bad enough, that they probably expected him to
go over because he would have state secrets.
Well, not really, but he would be tortured to get them anyway.
Jesus. Okay.
Because the Navy does everything in code books. But if he had a photographic memory, which his son does, so maybe he's got one too. If he had a photographic memory, he could remember the code words. Then yes, the Japanese would very much have liked to have had that, even though it wouldn't directly solve.
No, but that would make you like public enemy number one if you got detained, right? I would like
that public enemy would make you would ask. You'd be like, oh, here's someone who knows something.
And they would torture you to get whatever they wanted. That's what I meant. Like it's a big. Yeah.
Except the Navy was more secure than that, so they really wouldn't get anything. But they wouldn't know that. They would hope that the Navy had slipped up in its security and that it knew more than you were supposed to know. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so hold on. Back to San Diego. So you're working for a private contractor, working for the Pacific Fleet.
Yeah, I'm working for a multi-billion-dollar defense company at this point.
A multi-billion. It sounds more impressive when you say it like that. Okay, multi-billion-dollar defense company working for the Pacific Fleet. Are you able to tell me what the job was?
Oh, I can tell you everything because I was a DARPA research scientist.
What's DARPA?
So NASA and DARPA were founded by Eisenhower in response to Sputnik.
Right, that's the Soviet Union going into space before the Americans, right? Like in 1967, 66, 65? When was Sputnik? I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, so sometime in the early 60s.
Yeah.
Because we flew the moon before 70, so.
We did.
Yeah, so it was in the 60s. NASA, everyone is familiar with. That is the research arm of the space program. DARPA is the research arm of the Department of Defense.
Right, okay.
DARPA is just like NASA, only the military version.
Right, okay, so they're building the most advanced technology to attack and defend.
Yeah. So DARPA invented the internet. We have the internet because of DARPA. DARPA stealth fighters, that's also DARPA. Drones, also DARPA. So...
everything. Microwaves, also probably out of DARPA.
Those are the three things that DARPA tells us.
I was reading something a little while ago. They said like everything that's come into the F1 race car programs, like every technology that has basically come into the F1 race car driving programs has come from the military at some level, at some stage in the last like 50 years. Like all the technologies, the small engines, like all of this has come out of like fighter jets and all this kind of thing. Like the military...
or from NASA. There's a lot of stuff that's repurposed from NASA as well.
Yeah. It's amazing how the investment in military technology eventually, not right away, obviously, but eventually over decades finds its way into like everyday household items and, race cars and sports and all the things that we consume on a daily basis.
Yeah, all the things that the anti-technologists hate, except they're not willing to give up their iPhone, is the irony of it.
Yeah.
The people who say they hate technology all have an iPhone.
Yeah, and are online all the time.
Yeah,
exactly.
And are sitting on their toilet, texting. So, returning to DARPA, the conclusion of why the Soviets built us into space is one that we didn't have a civil space program, which the Soviet Union doesn't have either. They're very much a military program. That having a civil program would make it more visible to the public, and because Congress has to pass budgets, we really need a civil program. Whereas in Russia, they can just say, well, whatever.
Right, because if you have a civilian program, then the civilians can see what's going on,
and they'll Congress
and then say, "Hey, keep doing that, keep spending money, going to the moon," right? Instead of it being some secret thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it turned out that the space program became quite public in the U.S. as opposed to in the Soviet Union, where it's very much top secret.
Okay.
Then, or at least at that time, I haven't kept up with the Soviet Union. Of course, Soviet Union's gone now.
Soviet Union's gone now. It's just same guy all the time. I don't know what his name is.
Yeah. But DARPA, the three branches of the government were all building rockets for the space program, and the conclusion in hindsight was if all three of these groups had worked together, we would have beat the Soviet Union into space. But because they were competing for limited resources and stealing each other's engineers and all kinds of crap like that, that was what slowed us down.
Sounds like a totally normal government-run operation.
So Eisenhower said, let's not do that anymore.
Yeah.
DARPA will run in the clear. Everything in DARPA is not classified.
Oh, wow.
But we're gonna have the top military research agency in the world be completely open in everything that they're doing.
And how did that work out?
It worked out fabulous. We got the internet and all these other things. And so the way that works is that DARPA and the DoD put out these BAAs, these broad agency orders. There's one out right now if you want to apply for some funding from the government. We're looking at one right now. It's $150,000 for doing some AI stuff that's related to what we do.
That's amazing. And that's all DARPA stuff, like for independent contractors or for the private sector to jump in?
That's for the IR, Small Business Innovation Research. But the BAAs cover everybody. They're for the big defense companies like I worked at. Anybody can go for those. But there's an earmark that's for small business as well, that are smaller contracts, because the Defense Department wants to keep cultivating new companies. It's dangerous to have just three companies that supply the Defense Department.
Sure.
So they're always trying to nurture and get startups to come into the defense realm. And so DARPA has these contracts that you can apply to, and I've applied to in the past. I came in second, unfortunately, on working on the Joint Strike Fighter. I was going to do the sensor systems on the Joint Strike Fighter. And in the debrief from the Air Force, they told me why I missed it, and it was really disappointing because the only reason I didn't get that is I didn't partner with Qualcomm. And at the time, my good friend worked at Qualcomm. He would have partnered with me just by making a phone call and asking him.
Really?
But I didn't know that was going to be the deciding factor when they judged the contracts.
I feel like they should let you know that up front, like which chip maker they want you to work with, or which engineering team.
Right, but it wasn't that. It wasn't like they had a shopping list. It was that they compared everybody, and somebody else had a major subcontractor, and so that was why they chose them. And I realized if I'd had, they said that my proposal was actually stronger, but I didn't have a subcontractor for the known company, and my company didn't have a track record then, so they were very nervous about taking me. But if I had Qualcomm as my sub, I would have won that contract easily. And so, that's lesson learned. But they couldn't brief me on that. Nobody knew that it was going to land that way.
That way that it did. Okay, hold on. Let's go back. So you're living in San Diego. You're working for a private contractor. And you're working.
This is the same company that did the NBC.
This is the same company that did the NBC job, right? Which is bonkers to me. Like they can be building television studios in Chicago and then also working for the Pacific Fleet.
Yeah, but it's a robotic TV studio. It makes perfect sense.
because the Pacific Fleet needs to build robotics, and
So Fleet likes robots. That's a good job.
it's a good one. So how long were you in San Diego doing that for?
Gosh, how long was I there? 3 years.
Okay. So that's longer than you'd been for most of your stints, because normally you're just like a 1 and out, 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, and then something happened.
That was a conscious decision. I had been working for the Navy for a year at that point, and I taught at a Naval Postgraduate School where everyone around me is a naval officer, and that really kind of changed my mentality. So I became someone that took on a more military mindset, even though I'd never been enlisted, and thought, the next job I take, I should really stay for 3 years, because that's how long, if I had enlisted, I would still be here another 2 years. Let's try that next time and see how that goes.
So it was a conscious decision to give things more time to play out.
So I said, I'm going to give the next job 3 years, so that, in case maybe I'm cutting off opportunity by going on to the next thing too soon.
Right.
And so that was how long I was, 3 years to the day at SAIC.
And did that conscious decision work out for you, staying longer? Did it lead to better opportunities or allowed you to accomplish more stuff? Yeah.
Still in an aircraft carrier.
Oh.
So that was pretty cool.
That sounds awesome.
Build technology that was integrated into the defense system.
Incredible. That's no joke. Aircraft carriers.
Yeah, it was great fun being on the aircraft carrier, but they didn't pod me off. They warned me that if things get hot, they might have to pod me off. And I said, I'm not familiar with this verb. What does it mean to
pod me off? What is that? So put you in an escape pod?
That's personal onboard delivery. They'll strap me into a jet and you're going home.
Really? Just like that?
If it gets hot, yeah. If they start shooting, they'll take me off the ship.
And is that because you're a civilian contractor and not military?
Yeah.
So if something kind of strange happens, they fire Tom Cruise into one path going at the enemy, and they fire you off the back of the boat going back to San Diego.
Yeah, I'm back to San Diego.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
Good. I'm just trying to stay relevant.
Yeah, but I didn't get potted. With hindsight, I should have asked to be potted off, because I could have potted with the mail, because the physical mail they have to deliver that to the ship. So I could have taken the mail plane and gone back and come back again, just to have the experience of doing a carrier landing.
That's right. I never even thought about how you get mail out to these boats, but they actually bring out physical mail.
Yeah.
For all the soldiers. Yeah, because they're all writing letters to their family members.
Right. Yeah.
And they probably didn't have a regular connection at that time.
Wow. No, we did.
No.
Yeah, we had Athena at that time, which was the high-speed network, because we're on the carrier. The carrier has the best of everything.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had high-speed satellite network connectivity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So where'd you go after that? What was next in this amazing journey after 3 years in San Diego?
Well, then I was writing this column for the magazine and met the CTO of DreamWorks, and here I am.
That sounds crazy. So so one moment you're going, and what, DreamWorks was Spielberg, Katzenberg, and who was the third? And
SKG, yeah.
And then you went from being on.
I worked for Katzenberg, yes.
So you went from being on an aircraft carrier to making arguably some of the best animated films in the world.
Well, I don't know if I got to work on the best ones. I worked on Shark Tale and Over the Hedge, and Shrek 3.
Okay. And was that all just computer programming like skills? That's what's required for I do not know how they make animated movies.
We had one of the largest supercomputers in the world.
And that's how they make Toy Story.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah. Well, no, that's Pixar. That's our competitor.
Oh, geez, sorry. I didn't mean to. Pixar, right.
That's how you make Shrek.
Pixar was Steve Jobs.
Right.
Right. And then
Disney, yeah.
And Disney, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. That didn't
No, DreamWorks is Shrek and How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay. All very successful, all very well made. And how long did you stay at DreamWorks for?
I wasn't there very long, unfortunately. That was supposed to be a forever job. That was how it was pitched to me.
And were you here in LA on that job?
I was given my choice. I could have an office in San Francisco or in LA, because I had both locations at that time.
Okay.
And at the time that they offered it, I was actually living in San Francisco. So they thought I was going to come to the San Francisco office, but I fooled them and came to Glendale.
So you used it as an opportunity to relocate to here to Los Angeles.
Yeah, because I already lived in San Francisco. I'd seen San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'll come down to LA. So that brought me here.
How large is the engineering team at DreamWorks or Pixar or something like that? Like there's like, and they're all just computer scientists.
8-0.
Wow.
Of the best computer scientists in the world.
All just coming from defense industries and other industries.
From defense,
but
I'm an oddball.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No,
like,
they would like get them. They would get them off the tree. They would go to the top. Yeah, they go to MIT and get the top student out of MIT or whatever.
And but it's amazing to me that like the top engineering minds in the world are going to make entertainment, right?
For children. Yeah.
For children instead of like
working people.
Yeah. And instead of working on. I don't know if it's a waste of time, but it's versus saving the world.
That was tongue in cheek. That's not a waste of time.
No, it's not.
I became much more pacifist after my military experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because I supported special forces when I worked for the Navy.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was working with NATO.
Wild. Okay. So now we're
into disturbed by the way that the Call of Duty came out, because that looked exactly like the software that I had built in order to train special forces to kill people.
And there was no patent on that, or no, like you guys didn't have any. Right, but did the government take action against?
The government doesn't patent.
No.
No, it belongs to the people of the United States.
Right. So there's no protection of that technology.
Well, not on the particular stuff that we did, and it wouldn't matter anyway, because the technology evolved so rapidly after that, to this day, the basic principles of doing a first-person shooter game are the same as stuff that we created in 1995. But no one thinks anything of it. No one thinks of, there should be a patent on dead reckoning because when I shoot this torpedo out, the guy in Asia who's playing the game, he might turn his ship away, and so the torpedo misses. But from his perspective, because of the network delay, it missed him. But I think it hit him because I haven't gotten the network packet yet that says that the ship turned away. And so what do? Well, you split the difference. You have to bring reality back together. One player watching the game on his computer saw the torpedo miss. The other player on his computer saw the torpedo hit. So you split it. You say, okay, it missed, but it kind of came swing back and clipped you. And so you got half of a torpedo hit.
And that's all just coding.
Well, yeah, that's how you resolve it in the server, because the server gets it and says, well, now wait a minute. I told this guy that it missed, and I told this guy that it hit him. That's not going to be a good game experience.
No, that's confusing. Yeah, no. But it's even more confusing to me listening to you explain like how these, how to.
Because here at the speed of light, the person playing their game on their computer, it's updating as quickly as his computer runs. But the network to.
Nope.
Do it again. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Are you still in line?
Bring it up just a little bit there. A little bit more. There we go. Perfect. All right, we're back in.
Sorry about that.
No
I've got to learn to keep this arm still.
The cameras are quite close. Yes.
So yeah, I mean that would be a great patent. You could like own every game ever made if you had that patent.
Or at least just a couple pennies on the dollar of what's the big one that just came out recently? Grand Theft Auto 6 or something like that just came out. But these video games make more money than movies. Like they make hundreds of millions of dollars on release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that belongs to the U.S. government. So,
yeah. And through some of the brain power in your office in 1995.
Yeah, and it was probably taught it to them at USC. Nobody said this came out of DARPA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the teacher at USC was the guy that worked on it.
Yeah.
He's probably the guy who invented it. I didn't invent it.
Yeah. So how is the DreamWorks exit?
Well, DreamWorks released the second worst performing feature animation film ever made.
Oh, walk me through that.
They made a movie called Sinbad.
remember that.
Which was
I remember that.
bad.
That was like the genie, Aladdin. That was the Aladdin take, right, with Sinbad the comedian.
No. That movie was successful. Aladdin did fine.
Aladdin did fine. That was with Robin Williams. Robin Williams played,
Aladdin was
played
great.
the genie. Yeah,
Aladdin was fabulous. Sinbad, unfortunately, grossed $20,000.
okay. That's a tough one for a multi-million-dollar animated film.
Yeah, especially when you've got 80 of the best computer scientists on tap that are making good money.
So what, they just didn't pay the writers or the...
Well, no, you can't pay them. So there was a huge cut across the whole company. The company just barely survived. They almost went under.
Okay.
What saved them was environmentalists.
And how does that connection get made?
So DreamWorks wanted to build a new studio because the existing studio is actually in the parking lot of Disney. It's in the converted parking lot of Disney Studios, is where DreamWorks Animation is now. And so they wanted to have a real studio that had space to expand and whatnot. And so they chose this space in, what is it, Playa Vista? What is it over by Marina Del Rey?
Playa Vista, yeah.
Playa something or other.
Yeah.
Whatever that community is over there. But it had two problems. It was an environmentally protected swamp and an Indian burial ground.
Oh, geez. Two for one.
And so it turned out that there was tremendous pushback on letting them use this land, so much so that it delayed it for like years. And when the DreamWorks got into trouble, if they had owned that land that they were trying to buy and been paying the mortgage on it, they would have gone under. But because they hadn't been able to close the deal, despite their strenuous efforts to do so, they didn't have that note. They didn't have that debt. And that was just enough that the studio survived.
Wow, just because of that.
Yeah, just because environmentalists stopped them, and Indian chiefs, yeah.
And because of Sinbad and because of that slowdown, I mean, were you released from DreamWorks? Did they have to?
I was told today was your last day. Like a lot of people.
Wow.
It was a bloodbath. There were people who'd been there for a decade that were told today is your last. Today you're done.
Just a ruthless cut right across the engineer.
Yeah, anyone who wasn't attached to the next movie had to go. Yeah, if you're not on the airplane, if you work at the airport, you're gone.
That's insane. Yeah, and to have no notice, right? Almost no notice on that.
No notice at all.
Wow.
Because they couldn't. The box office comes out for the weekend, and you have to readjust your figures, and it's like, it can't be that bad. Yeah, it is that bad.
And then on Monday, when it does $20,000 instead of $50 million on the opening weekend, you're done.
$20,000 on the weekend when it's supposed to do at least $20 million, instead.
Right.
And on Monday, you have a meeting. You say, well, what are we going to do? And you say, well, it's a good thing we didn't buy that huge piece of property, and we're going to have to do cuts. Okay, who are we going to cut? Yeah, when are we going to cut them? And it's like, well, we've got to cut immediately. This is like Apollo 13. This is like you have to power down immediately. You can't be like, And the
engineering department must be probably like the highest cost part of the team, because you guys have the best engineers from all over the world.
Well, the whole place is that way.
Yeah,
we have the best of the best in every department.
Amazing.
And so of course everybody's expensive, and so they took 4 days to decide who to cut, and then on Friday it's like, you're gone.
What percentage of the company was that? Was it like 10%? Was it 20%? 50%?
I have no idea. I wasn't sitting in that meeting.
Because we all sit here and we see.
Jeffrey didn't invite me in to discuss,
But we all sit here and we see like, oh, Meta, like Facebook is laying off 10% of their global staff. Like Amazon is laying off, 5% of their global staff.
Right.
These kinds of headlines we get used to from time to time now.
I think it must have been worse than that.
Yeah.
Because they were laying off people that have been there for 10 years.
Yeah, that sounds really serious, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after your stint at DreamWorks, where'd you head after that?
Well, then I was loose. I was like, I had lifetime employment. I was told that, I'd been told at the Naval Postgraduate School that this is lifetime employment. You'll be tenured, guaranteed employment for life.
Yeah.
Nope, didn't work out. Went to SAIC. I said, I had this guaranteed employment for life thing. And they said, okay, well, we'll make you chief technologist and director of the research lab. That should make you safe for life.
Yeah. 3 years later.
But 3 years later, I said, I'm not really happy working with you guys. And you're not very happy working with me. I'm too entrepreneurial for you guys. You guys really want to. But SAIC in my group had decided that they were going to refocus on defense. I had launched the commercial division. And the commercial division was doing well, and the defense part was struggling. And they said, well, we're going to cut the, we're going to throw out the baby and keep the bathwater. And that's how we're going to save the defense operation.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think that works. I've been trying to, improve our defense operation for 3 years here, and the problems are systemic. It's not a problem that cuts will fix. We'd have to change the way we do business.
And they weren't up for that.
Well, no, they said we just keep doing the same thing forever. Why would we change everything? Just stick with what works. Why even question it?
That's not the way an entrepreneur thinks at all.
No, I'm like, business cycle, we're at the top of the roller coaster, let's get off.
Well, when you're working on cutting edge technology, like if you're not radically changing everything you're doing, like every 2 or 3 years, you're behind the curve. Like that's how aggressive, maybe even now it's even faster. Like what did they say about the semiconductor chips? Like they double in their
18 months.
Yeah. 18 months. So if you're not radically thinking about every single thing you're doing and how it's going to change every 18 months, you're behind the curve.
Right. On the commercial side. But that's not how it works in the government business. In the government business, you write a report. See, when they hired me in, they thought I was going to write a report. They told people that I was going to invent cool stuff. They told me I was going to invent cool stuff.
Hence, you took the job.
But they didn't believe that. What they thought of at the end of the day is that they would have a ready scapegoat because I was the guy who was supposed to invent all the cool stuff, and then they'd write a report. This is how the government contractors often operate. They promise the moon, and then when they don't deliver the moon, they give you a report and say, well, we learned a lot.
And this is why it didn't happen, and this is why we didn't deliver. But they can, but
it's all the guy's fault that we hired to invent it. How could we know? He had, look at the pedigree this guy had. How could we know he wouldn't deliver?
Sure.
But the reality was, in this group at least, they never intended to deliver. They always had planned to pull the rug from under our customer.
Interesting.
And so I was like, well, I came here to build stuff. I had invented TiVo at this point. This is a year before the company TiVo existed, and I had a TiVo in my lab.
Just remind me what a TiVo is.
This is a digital VCR. This is a DVR.
Yes, I remember TiVo. Yeah, it allowed you to say
TiVo was the first
record your television.
I had one a year earlier that I invented for the Pentagon. Because the Pentagon has the VRF, the video recording facility, where they record everything, and they were doing it all on VHS tapes. And I said, well, don't do it on tapes. We could have a digital video recorder. Oh, what's that? And so I had a digital video recorder.
So the admiral of the Pacific Fleet could watch Seinfeld on demand.
It actually did. I sailed on an aircraft carrier, and we did that. Not Seinfeld. He liked Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra died that week, so there was a lot of stuff on CNN about Frank Sinatra.
Did you ever see Frank play live?
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, coincidentally, I had dinner with the admiral every night when I was on the aircraft carrier. I sat at his table. So,
what's it like being on such a potent symbol of American military might? Like, what is it like sitting on an aircraft carrier being like, this is how the United States projects its power globally?
Doesn't feel like that when you're sitting on it. It feels like you're in an office building with no windows that moves.
That's yeah, I haven't heard that before. No, that makes total sense. You're the only person I know who's been on an aircraft carrier. But that's an interesting description. Were you ever like up in the bridge, like with the admiral?
I can go anywhere because I'm rated for top secret. The reason that I was rated for top secret, DARPA's in the clear. Why do I need top secret? So I can go in the CIC, so I can go in command and control because that's a top secret space.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you see what's going on. You see where they're headed, what the mission is, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So I can see all the secrets, but most of the time I'm not dealing with the secrets.
Okay.
And that's why I didn't want SCI the next level up, because I didn't have need to know. And
It didn't involve what you were doing on your project.
right. I didn't need, I wasn't going to go into a space that was SCI. I was already cleared for all the spaces I needed to be able to visit.
Interesting.
And to get SCI, then you have the polygraph test and all the rest of it. And I was just like, and you have to ask permission to leave the country. I mean, it was just, it was a lot.
That is a lot, actually.
And I was like, I work in DARPA in the clear.
You like having a life, like a normal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was fine filling out the 10-year lease agreement, but that was getting too deep. I didn't want to become a CIA operative
who had to ask permission to leave the country. That's crazy. They do that with some of their top secret. Yeah. Well, not of course. I'm learning this for the first time.
That would be like the worst thing ever. Would be like to have your guy who knows all the secrets to leave the country and let you not know it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go to Paris for the weekend and just no. And like that's so funny though, because
how about Beijing?
Oh, Beijing, yeah. Well, and now I feel like we need to catch up a little bit. So what happened after DreamWorks?
So after DreamWorks, I kicked around because I hadn't planned to get another job. I thought I was done. I loved DreamWorks. I loved working at NBC, and this is kind of returning to my roots of like, I just really loved working in the media. It was so great working in defense systems and these other things I've done, but I never felt as at home as I did at NBC. Yeah, they weren't my people. I liked working with military officers, but I never dreamt of being one myself.
Sure.
So it was like, well, I'll go back to where I came from and be happy there. And so I ended up doing a stint at GoPro and at DirecTV and just kind of kicked around. And Hollywood is a project town. Everything is 18 months.
At least, yeah, no, minimum, yeah.
No, maximum.
Takes years to develop some stuff.
No, the finance takes 10 years or longer.
Right.
But that's a different crew. I'm talking about the people that are actually producing something.
Oh, yeah, like to make a movie or to make a
you can't take 10 years to make a movie.
No, you can't. No, agreed. Yeah, financing is a bitch. But once you get the money in place, it's 18 months.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah. I used to turn my shows, I used to do 10 episodes a season, 10 episodes, 10 countries. Yeah, we used to turn that stuff around in 18 months. Yeah, go out, shoot it, and then come.
Yeah, and oftentimes I was being called in on projects because they were in trouble, which means that they were already at the midpoint.
Right.
So it's not even 18 months for me.
No, it's like 5 or 6 months to fix it before it has to go out to save someone else's ass.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so I was working on all these projects. I did 2 years at House of Moves, which is the largest motion capture stage in town. So if you see a digital fight scene in a superhero movie, where they like doing these incredible fight scenes where if you had a real stuntman, he would die. That's software that I wrote.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And so what was it? Sorry, was that stop motion? A stop motion studio?
No, it's motion capture.
So
you put people in dot suits, then these funky looking leotards that have dots all over them.
Yeah.
And you even might put dots on their face, and there's a little camera on a boom that faces their mouth so you can get the lip sync. And
this is like the Avatar stuff that James Cameron does. This is what you see, like Kate Winslet and all the other actors. Like okay.
Same stuff.
That's cool. And they have a studio for that here in LA.
Yeah, they have a studio there are many studios all over the world. It's not a monopoly, but the largest studio in LA is the one that I worked for, and they do most of the major motion pictures that do this kind of work.
Right.
And they also make game trailers. The Call of Duty game trailers produced there on the same system.
Interesting. Yeah, I've seen the stuff come out of Weta in New Zealand. The motion capture stuff. That's why.
But there are studios that do this all over the world. But House of Moves, which is over by the airport, is the largest.
Okay.
So they're like the Weta motion capture.
And they're like the Weta of motion capture. No, that's interesting. Peter Jackson obviously did well with Lord of the Rings and Weta as well. So how are you now positioned? I mean, can we make this move now to what you're doing here in Beverly Hills?
I don't think so. We're we're going to be at the 2-hour point here in about 8 minutes.
We might be. Are you pressed to head out, or you have another appointment?
Well, I promised my wife that I would be back half an hour ago, so she might.
That's what always happens. That's what always happens.
I knew you wouldn't be back.
Yeah. So,
she's the one who says I talk too much.
oh well, this
This will just prove her right as usual.
Well, this is the perfect platform for talking too much, because people out there want to know stuff, right? And they want to hear, intelligent people talk about what they do for a living and what their passions are. And I just feel like this platform is perfect for that. So anytime anyone comes in here and is like, oh, I've got to be out in 30 minutes, and next thing you know, it's like 3 hours. You just have a chat.
Well, if you ask me what I've done in life, that's the wrong question. If you want to get out of the
I don't though. That's why I love it. I mean, I can't think of a chat that is
a bunch of stuff. We could go another hour easily.
Easily. Do you want to just get into where you are right now and what your purpose is at the moment?
Yeah. So
that your wife doesn't call me in an hour and be like, "Hey, asshole, get him home."
She wouldn't do that. She's very sweet.
That's good.
Yeah. She works for Fandom. She's a communications manager for Fandom.
Okay.
But so she knows all the. She worked for Disney for years, and now works for Fandom, which collects logistics on game usage and stuff like that. They own Metacritic and TV Guide and stuff.
Amazing.
And Game Spot.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway.
So where are you today, and what did you up for?
I'll be mayor of Beverly Hills if all goes well.
So, okay, so we can skip over a lot of stuff, which we are about to do. But you're running for public office. Basically, you're here and you're running for mayor of Beverly Hills.
Yeah, which we haven't talked about at all. But yes, now that we've 2 hours later, this is why you don't ask a professor a hard question.
No, I mean, yeah, it's amazing. So how do you decide to run for mayor of Beverly Hills?
I was asked
by friends in the community.
No, my friends think it's all crazy. They say don't do that.
Yeah.
They say they would never do such a thing.
To run for public office, to serve, to give back, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's thankless, and people criticize you, and
you said it, not me. I would not be ready for public office.
All this stuff. People are like, why would this is like taking tests? Oh, Robin, he loves taking tests
and filling out forms.
We should ask him.
Yeah.
And so, in 2016, I was appointed to the City of Beverly Hills Technology Committee. I lived just a few blocks from City Hall, and I called up our mayor and said, hey, I would like to help the city in some way. And he said, well, there's this citizens committee. I can appoint you to it. That meets once a month. It doesn't really decide or do anything. It's a citizens committee. But if you want to do something out of civic duty, then go ahead. And so after 4 years on the technology committee with the city, people said, you show up like at every meeting, and you're like so passionate and really care about this stuff, and have such great stories, and have such a weird buried background.
Was that a negative or just some observation randomly from someone?
It's negative and a positive, yes. And so you should run for office. And so these are like former city council members and two former mayors, suggested I should run.
Okay.
And I was at a forum, a candidate forum just this week, and just happened to have the campaign advisor to the mayor that told me to run. And I said, it's nice to meet you. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. We ended up running against each other in an election, but it's the mayor, your guy, who actually encouraged me the most to run.
Oh, wow.
And she always says that to everyone. And so I said, oh, do you think he didn't mean it when he said it to me? That's interesting.
That takes it in a totally different tangent.
She was like,
yeah.
She ran away after that.
Yeah. So how many people run for the mayor of Beverly Hills?
So nobody runs directly for the mayor.
Okay, this is what I wanted.
The way you become mayor of Beverly Hills is we have a 5-member city council, and it rotates that you become mayor for a year.
So 5 city council members, each one gets a 1-year crack at being mayor, and then after the 5 years and the 5 terms, is the council then reelected, or are there elections that go on during that process?
In this election, we're electing 2 council members. In the last election, it was 3. There's an election every 2 years because it's staggered. And it's possible to not be the mayor if you do the math.
Right, because you could get elected and then not have your turn come out and then get...
Because whether you're mayor or not depends on how you rank when you were elected.
Sure.
So if you're at the bottom, even though you're on the city council, you might not get to be mayor. But it just depends on the math, and I think that the city council actually decides amongst themselves to some extent that maybe nobody wants to be the mayor that year, and so they can give it to whoever.
So you're basically running to be a city council member that will eventually become internally elected to be mayor.
I can be appointed to mayor if I'm a city council member. As
a Canadian, I won't be able to vote for you.
No.
Okay.
And then you have to live in Beverly Hills, so it wouldn't even matter if you...
That's true, yeah. I'm on the edge.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in West Hollywood, so that doesn't count.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so when are the elections?
The ballots go out on March 5th because we have mail-in ballots in Beverly Hills. Everyone gets a mail-in ballot. But the official election is March 5th. If you want to vote in person, you can vote on March 5th. And so that's it. In 2 weeks, the ballots go out.
That's amazing. 2 weeks from now. And where can people learn more about you? Do you have social media? Do you have a website? How are you getting the word out?
I have some flyers that are at newsstands in Beverly Hills. I talked to them today, and they said that one flyer got picked up in the last 24 hours. So I'm crushing it at the newsstand.
Yeah.
There are forums. There's a couple candidate forums that are coming up, and one is at Beverly Hills High School and one is at City Hall. Then there's my website, but this is the third time I've run, and I found that the website doesn't necessarily do that much. I'm going to do a lot more of reaching out through email and things like that this time.
Okay.
There are 2 newspapers currently in Beverly Hills, soon to be a third. The 2 newspapers that exist, I can't really get fair coverage in because the number one advertiser for our local newspapers is the city council.
So naturally.
So they're not particularly warm to someone who's an outsider running, and I'm a progressive. I'm the only progressive candidate. We have 10 people running. 2 of them are centrist Democrats. I'm a progressive, and the rest of them are Republican conservatives or even MAGA.
Oh.
And so from my standpoint, everyone who's running looks like a conservative to me. I don't count the centrist Democrats as being progressives.
But getting favorable news coverage can be quite tough. I mean, I've seen Succession. I'm sure we've all seen Succession now. Who's running that?
It's been really amusing because the Beverly Hills Courier is the biggest newspaper in Beverly Hills. The Beverly Hills Weekly is the other newspaper. There's also the Beverly Press, but it covers more than Beverly Hills, so it's not strictly speaking just the Beverly Hills newspaper. These are all weeklies. And so the Courier, in a prior election, called all the candidates to their office and grilled each of us one by one for an hour on our position on policy and everything else. It was a great interview, really, really well done. Didn't run one word of it.
Are you serious? They did all that and didn't even bother putting it together. At least this is going to go out.
Yeah, but they didn't run the interviews with the incumbents either, because the incumbents didn't say anything that was worth quoting. And so what they did is they ran a full page saying that they supported the incumbents, and it's too bad for the rest of the candidates don't really rate that it's not worth writing an article about them.
That seems like a wash. Someone did something in there.
Well, our former mayor, who kind of runs everyone agrees runs the political machine in Beverly Hills, is the wife of a hedge fund owner, and the newspaper, the Courier, was bought by a hedge fund, but no one knows which one, and so possibly there's some link there. I don't know, but the Courier and our mayor put out a joint press release announcing how great it was that a hedge fund had bought the newspaper. So They seem to get along pretty well.
That's that sounds suspicious. So down and dirty politics in Beverly Hills, no doubt.
It's perfectly legal for someone to own a newspaper, and no one is required to say who the owner is of a newspaper. But
you have to declare that if you take. I mean, is the hedge fund not what?
no, you only have to declare if you're the publisher.
Right.
The publisher's address is there. The person who operates the newspaper, you can look them up and see who they are.
Yeah.
But if you want to know who actually owns it,
I feel like that's a democratic.
The LA Times actually interviewed them and said, well, who actually owns you? And they refused to answer that question.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's
You
wild.
can Google it and find the
Oh my
article
God.
in the LA Times where they're like, who owns the Courier? No comment.
Okay. Well, okay. So March 5th is when everyone's voting. When's the date?
March 5th is when the voting machines are, but you can start voting as soon as you receive your ballot after they're mailed on February 5th.
Okay.
So in 2 weeks, people can start to vote. The voting will be completed on March 5th, but because Beverly Hills is vote by mail, unless you just hold your ballot till the last day, people will have, a lot of the voting will already be done by March 5th.
So this all kicks off in 2 weeks, and then you've got 4 weeks to lock it all down, all by mail, all in Beverly Hills.
Well, not by mail because I don't take donations.
Right.
And to do a mailing, you're looking at least $1 a piece, maybe more realistically $5. And there are 22,000 voters, so that's 5 times 22,000. You run out of money fast if you decide to mail all of the voters of Beverly Hills.
So then they have to vote in person.
No, this has nothing to do with the ballots.
Okay.
This is as me as a candidate. If I want to send a postcard to every voter, that's 22,000 times whatever my postcard costs.
Right.
And a postcard costs, $1 to $5 depending on.
And how much exposure do you get at these events, like these community events, like the one at the Beverly Hills High School?
The forums are very interesting because people basically come to cheerlead. The audience is all people who have already decided who they're voting for.
Oh, that's the opposite of what the audience should be, right? The audience should be there asking questions and be undecided and wanting to listen to the opinions of the people who are challenging for leadership, right? Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
That would seem so in a democratic sense, but no, that's not how it works.
Oh, interesting.
So I have to convert my opponents' supporters in the room.
Okay.
And then in the last election when I had a forum with the Roxbury, the Courier ran an article where they quoted every candidate except me, but they did mention me. They said that they disagreed with everything I said.
Okay.
But they didn't say what I said.
You figure they could have thrown one blurb out there as an example.
No, not even the topic.
Yeah.
Not even, they just said that they just disagreed with me as a person. They just don't care for me at all.
Well, that's pretty nice. Yeah, sometimes you have people that just hate you for everything that comes out of your mouth.
Well, no, the issue is that I bring up all the stuff that embarrasses the incumbents. That, we've had misuse of funds. We've had gross incompetence. They can't mention any of this stuff and still endorse the candidate that they say that they're endorsing.
Sure. So when you get up there and you start spitting the truth, people don't really appreciate it.
Well, the newspapers that have endorsed my opponent don't appreciate it.
And in which case you get silenced. No, absolutely.
Well, they mentioned my name. They said that, they told people not to listen to me. That's sort of an endorsement.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, right? If you can get enough people to disagree with you or choose, not to.
Well, they'd not really disagree. They'd have had to say what I said to disagree with me. It was more like, don't pay attention to me.
You're like you wholesale weren't even there.
Yeah, don't listen to Robin. This was was basically what was the response last time. So, but they had already done the thing with me where they had me in for an hour and didn't run one word. So I wasn't shocked that, it was more stuff like that. But I'm nice to them, and I sent them a nice email and said thank you for coming to the event. Maybe next time you could quote me.
Okay, well, yeah. So we're just over the 2-hour mark, and I feel like we could easily go another 2 or 3 hours. So I probably should let you go.
We should go.
Absolutely. Well, Robin, we can do this. You can join me here in the middle. See?
Okay.
Just so you can't. Great to meet you, man.
Good to see you, and
And
thank you for letting me talk too much.
no, I love it. And
But next time, let's do it as a TikTok soundbite.
TikTok sound bites, because that's the way everyone gets their information now.
That's right.
And we'll fade to black on the TikTok soundbite.
The TikTown, yeah. Bye.